I don't remember a time when curling wasn't a part of my life. When I wasn't putting in the sweat and hard work to be the best that I can be. Clocking in the time, the effort to practice day in, day out. Curling is more than just a game. It's a family, a community. And when it's time to play, I know I'll be ready. Hardline, supporting hundreds of our next generation athletes.
We asked Saskatchewan what they know about 5G.
More speed, more innovation.
It's gonna make our lives a whole heck of a lot easier.
This is what 5G looks like.
Better, faster.
Sounds like one more G. Sounds pretty good.
I don't know what it means.
All you really need to know is the future of 5G is here and will continue improving through investments in network technology.
Hello and welcome to Swift Current Saskatchewan in the RBC Dominion Securities Western Showdown. This is the quarterfinal stage. It is seed number 1 versus seed number 8 with team Matt Dunstone versus team Gushue here, as you can see, just getting play underway here in Swift Current. My name is Marty Thompson. I'll be calling today's game. Appreciate all of the comments in chat. We'll be checking in with all of you as this game progresses. As mentioned, this is 1 versus 8. And take a guess who is the number 1 seed. That's right, it is team Matt Dunstone as they went ahead in the A qualifier. Team Gushue, multiple reigning Canadian champions, they had to go through the C side. Didn't have exactly the best result through the first couple games, but they managed to get through to the playoffs. Take a quick look here at the other sheets, other quarterfinals rather in play. We have Ryan Kleider, Brad Jacobs, Mike McEwen versus Brent Pierce, and John Epping versus Kevin Cooey. This just gives you an idea of just how stacked this field is here in Swift Current year after year. Plenty of storylines in this game. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Monday morning. The men's final day here in Swift Current as we see Team Dunstone deliver their stone into the 4-foot. Harden brothers are back together. We'll get to that in a second as we see Brad Gushue assess the house here. They have the hammer in this first end. My apologies, Dunstone rather will have the hammer. Brendan Botcher throwing second stones for this team. Now in his second month in this role. Lots of chopping and changing in the men's scene here in Canada, and these two teams on this sheet are certainly no stranger to that. Add on for line here. We're seeing the rocks curl quite a bit here in Swift Current. Keep in mind, they do want to get around this rock here. It's a 3-guard, and they will not do that. So maybe a little tighter to the hand. Maybe assessing this ice a little bit here. Sheet 3 in Swift Current. As mentioned, Team Dunstone had a pretty good week here so far. Went through in the A side, grabbing 1-point wins over Reed Carruthers and Rylan Kleider in the process. I mentioned Kleider is playing on a adjacent sheet here in another quarterfinal. That last game they had against Kleider, that was yesterday at noon, so they've had plenty of time to rest and regroup here. Gushue's last game was started at 9 o'clock last night, so quick turnaround for them. EJ Harden with his come around in the yellow. Dunstone also calling. They're going to get a little bump off this, so both teams getting fooled with the amount of curl here. And is this something that Brad Gushue can go after? Looks like he can. Spot your second and final here in this first end. Right away. A thin piece of it for sure and still get lucky, and they will do just that. Shooter rolls all the way down. But certainly a good result here for this team out of Newfoundland and Labrador, sitting one at the back four. Jay Harden with his second. It will be a game of some significance for him. Of course, he departed this Gushue team. And what was that? Just a couple weeks ago. It seems like maybe it was just yesterday, but in reality, it was maybe a couple weeks ago. Picks up where he left off with his brother and Team Dunstone. Obviously, lots of success with Team Gushue with those multiple Briars and all those slams. Certainly came up short the world stage, which will be a sticking point for Gushue, of course. They brought on Brendan Botcher, who was the inside of this Red Rock. Mark Nichols first. This one doesn't look like it has a ton of weight. And it will cut on them as well. Just a little wick again. So another shot in which it comes off of the sort of inside of the intended target. Saw Gushue there just take another, took another look at a rock there. Just, I'm not sure if he maybe saw something in the ice or saw something in the rock, or was maybe just plainly frustrated at how much that curled. Colton Lott throwing third stones now for Dunstone. And Matt, maybe just looking at this rip now, a couple options. This is quite good if you can make that. Some risk involved. But if you're Dunstone too, you could even get away with send that red rock straight back. You have the yellow at the back four jam into the red. Could end up sitting 2, maybe even 3. It's precise, but right now you've got some good cover. Colton Lott throwing a little bit of weight at this. What a treat for Matt Dunstone to have these two sweepers. And count him, another rock over curls here. The first end in this quarterfinal here in Swift Current. We're catching a bit of a theme. Doesn't make the decision making for Gushue too much different. Yeah, he'll go after the same rock, just hit it at a different angle. Got some people checking in here from Gimli, Minnesota, British Columbia, Myrtle Beach. A couple snowbirds in Myrtle Beach. Thanks, Ted, for reminding us that the weather here is bad. I appreciate that. Thanks, everybody, for checking in here in chat. We'll be taking a look at that later on in the game, of course, and throughout. Jeff Walker with that broom down. Don't know if he maybe held it out a little bit, but see if these rocks come back on these teams. One undercurled, but again, it might have been just putting that broom down. I'm not sure. Maybe the weight was a little bit more than they needed. Just needed to promote it just a couple feet and realistically just to get it to the button. Final Vice Stones here. Colton Lott wants to go down and take a look. So Dunstone just intimating he wants to come all the way around to try to see if he can get a piece of the button. Might look a little ugly. Up Skip Stones here. Well, the shooter comes down into the 3.5 guard zone. Mark Nichols here stepping into the rings to take a look at this stack of stones. And yes, thank you, Kathy. The comment, I meant to note this: the scoreboard at the back of the right to the back of the skips and vices here. That is in fact incorrect. Gushue, as far as we can tell, is throwing red rocks rather, and Dunstone is throwing yellow. But our scoreboard here we have on screen is correct. So Gushue thinking, if he could promote this red rock in to the button, is that as good as, perhaps just getting rid of this problem Yellowstone here at the top 8, kind of rolling open, and then all of a sudden that's one lonely yellow at the back 4. Dunstone would have another shot to try to make something of it, but
I had a chance to watch the Gushue game last night, Marty, and he was coming up a little bit light here. And one of the things that Jim was talking about on the broadcast last night in the game was that very uncharacteristic, of course, as you mentioned about the team change, and sometimes the chemistry takes a little bit of while to catch up on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Dan Hobson with us here in Swift Current. Yeah, there's a lot of balancing required, certainly. So what's the call here? Do you think were they just intimating just to remove that Yellowstone?
Well, there's been a lot of rocks in play here just in this first end. You'd have to think that that would definitely be one of the things that, but if you're struggling with some of your draw weight, you may be more up to take the hit here than anything. So,
first of two here from Brad Gushue in this quarterfinal. Botcher with the carve over. They want to get a hefty chunk of this Yellowstone, and they will. That creates a good shape with those two reds, Dan. It makes it difficult, I think, for Dunstone to really get a meaningful second yellow rock in unless they make this draw around this really tight guard.
Well, they're really clogging up like that 4-foot area. As you see, there's like this maybe small area to come in, but it's just really difficult, so this is definitely like a little bit of a better after seeing what they did yesterday last night. And as you said, it was also like a quick turnaround. They were in that late game last night. And they had like a 4-0 lead in that game. So to be turned around that quickly and then have to be up against Dunstone, who we've known as a really good competitor. So it's got to be, early discussions here early in the first end. So you know that the importance is that they're in a little heap of trouble. As you see, like for Dunstone, it's that lone Yellowstone there. They're looking at like 4 already. So you see Dunstone has the hammer here in 1. But the path is sort of starting to get a little bit harder. The harder you have to go outside, and then you have to come more in. It's more difficult there to try to get your 2. So.
Yeah, and the port down the center line is something that is quite ugly right now. I see the Hardens taking a look at this potential double. At least it would put a Yellowstone, I guess, higher up in the rings. The only issue is if you do come around, like if you did the draw that Matt intimated to start, then if you make it perfect, you almost give Gushue a bigger pocket to send these 2 reds in to raise them, right? If you end up like right T line, let's say, then Brad could hit just about any part of that rock that Matt now has his broom on and send a red in to be shot stone and likely frozen to a yellow. So the call is just to get rid of these. Try to at least give you something at the front of the house. Matt Dunstone's first here in the quarterfinal in Swift Current. He has the hammer in this first. Has already taken off on us. Lots of rocks in play. This number 1 seed looks to take advantage of that yellow rock there in the back 4. Maybe falling on them a little bit.
Here, oh yes. At least cleaning things up a little bit. Removes both the reds, so looking a little bit better for him.
Yeah, there's at least the opportunity in which, if Brad Gushue wants to get rid of this Yellowstone, there's at least a margin for error. Dunstone could potentially get a miss out of him at this point, but yeah, then as mentioned, the top four is at least open to a certain extent.
Well, the sport sometimes you use like your first shot that you make is almost like a setup for your second shot. So
Yeah, this level for sure. That is what you need to do early in the game too, as they're figuring out the ice as well. You got to try to play to that as well.
now you've been here probably since like Thursday, so you've had a chance to see some games. The ice conditions and seeing some of the curlers come up a little bit short. Has the ice have been a little bit of an issue? Has it been in the minds of some of these curlers, you think?
Well, there's just lots of curl, and when there's lots of curl, like you're saying, they come up short sometimes. Sometimes that just means it catches a curl, and you can lose suddenly a couple more feet than you thought. So yeah, it could be, and also we could see teams, as much as they have a pretty extensive practice, it can still sometimes take an end for the ice to settle in. This is going to be a big sweep, and they will get a miss out of Brad Gushue. So couldn't quite navigate that. Hort botcher on the carve. Couldn't quite bring that over, and now it's a draw for two. You're just talking about that setting yourself up for that second, for a second shot later. It's a perfect example of it. They now have a draw for two. That's a pretty good outcome, considering they were looking at those two staggered reds there not too long ago.
Yeah, they were looking at four, and that's the thing that's also been going on here at this showdown, is if all of a sudden things could just like change quick as a hat, like in a New York minute, whatever term you want to use. That they look to be in control, because the thing is, Gushue in his game last night, it didn't look like it was going to be anything going on, but he scored four in that first inning. And you thought, hey, he'd be off to the races, but he kind of had a little bit of struggled. So anything's been happening here as a final stone from Dunstone is on its way.
Good chance to get some draw weight, and as mentioned earlier, what a treat to have these two brothers as your sweepers. Dunstone certainly giving it to them here on this draw, making sure the tolerance is correct and giving these two powerful sweepers exactly what they need to bring that rock into the forefoot and score 2 points. So Matt Dunstone up here in the first end, here at the quarterfinal here in Swift Current. We'll be right back.
So with the impact to my business and income, will this delay my retirement?
I know you're worried, Marshall, but based on the original plan we came up with, you're only about 6 months behind.
I thought it would be years, not months.
You should feel good. Remember, you've got a plan.
Thanks.
With change comes questions. See the impact of your money decisions before you make them with RBC Wealth Plan.
Handcrafted in Canada, Hardline's Ice Pad has revolutionized curling for over a decade. Engineered with top-tier precision and durability, it is backed by an unmatched 10-year warranty. Designed for curlers at all levels to sweep effortlessly with maximum efficiency, it is trusted by the world's best curlers, including Olympic and world champions. It is quite simply the best brew in the game. Hardline. Join the revolution.
Stronger agronomics, better returns, greater peace of mind. From pre-seed to post-harvest, you can count on the Victory Canola program to keep you
And welcome back to Swift Current, Saskatchewan. This is the RBC Dominion Securities Western Showdown quarterfinal Monday. Marty, Thompson, Dan Hobson, and the rest of the curling stadium crew. And Dunstone is off to a good start, and he was facing a lot of shrapnel there, Marty, in that first end, but he made a double, and then Gushue, who's been sort of struggling here at this championship this weekend, and that allowed Dunston the door open and took advantage of two. So it's going to be Gushue here with hammer throwing the road, red stones, and end number 2.
Yeah, both teams got fooled with just how much the rocks were curling. You know, I think there's maybe 4 or 5 wrecks on guards or even stones that were kind of in that top 4 range. And, you know, sometimes you put the broom down, and these are, you know, the best line callers in the world. And sometimes when you put a broom down, it doesn't stop that sort of gradual curl. So something to keep in mind, either you take more line or you try to have, I think we saw Jeff Walker do this in the first end, where you kind of put a broom down pretty early. You kind of do that snowplow motion and try to force it out a little bit wider. That's something that these skips might be looking at, but you know, that's ultimately what led to having so many rocks in play, is kind of just in this position where it's like, you know, you're trying to make one draw and all of a sudden there's 2 guards and the rip's not there. So yeah, something to look out for sure, as we see Dunstone line up for the guard here. Looks like that one comes in pretty nice. Oh, it hooked over a little bit at the end, but yeah, I know you mentioned that you got a chance to watch a bit of Gushue last night, Dan, and yeah, what an uncharacteristic way to get to this quarterfinal for this team. That, you know, it's you don't want to set unrealistic expectations for a team to be perfect or almost perfect, but certainly a team that is one of the most dominant teams we've seen in the men's game in quite some time in this country. You know, certainly feeling it out a little bit this year, I think, with Botcher too, but to go through the C event and I think they had I know the score isn't quite indicated, but a 10-2 loss to John Epping. I think they gave up a 5 at the end, but certainly not their like finest weekend, but I would not certainly doubt them at all to come out with the result in this one.
Well, I mean, the thing is that a single event like this is it's a cash event. Of course, you're trying to win some cash and put it into your pocket, but it's also like we're into that stretch drive right now. We're getting set for like provincials, so everybody's trying to. This is where you got to find your game. You know, you may be struggling now, but as the season ramps up, it'll be a little bit more tougher to take on, and same for Dunstone here as well. So.
Here's E.J. Harden. We should note that, yes, there are 5 players on the ice wearing white jackets. I believe E.J. in this case is probably wearing his brother's jacket. They have an alternate, a red and a white. So even when you get into your 30s, you still end up wearing your brother's clothes sometimes. So that's okay. Some things never change.
Well, it's just the way the sport has been going. All of a sudden, they're making changes. Like, you didn't used to see a lot of these changes made. Like, it was pretty much your team was sort of set, but this is how the changing of the sport. And sometimes it, of course, requires different equipment. So there's probably definitely another jacket on the way here for him. So.
I would hope so. Yeah, BJ Neufeld on the out with this team here. Again, just a few weeks ago. Really talented curler in his own right, and a decision was made. I think they've got a pretty good third rock thrower here in Colton Lott to move up into that position, and you know they've certainly got 2 great sweepers, so it's really hard to critique a move like that, as much as BJ, you know, he's at the top of his game, is and has been one of the better vices in this loop for quite some time, but Yeah, the number of changes I think are maybe a little bit of a whirlwind, and it's certainly unprecedented in this sport, as you mentioned, Dan. I mean, I think it's I think the athletes, they just sort of feel the pressure, and that man right there behind the hack, Gushue. I know that some people have called this the sort of Gushue effect, where you're trying to chase a team at the very, very tippy top, and it's like, how do we do that? It's like, well, if you have to just make a change for the sake of making a change, or you feel like there's a weak spot on your team, you don't hesitate. You just make it and just hope that you're throwing something against the wall and it sticks, right? There's more thinking to that other than just, like making a random choice, but sometimes it would certainly feel a little bit more randomized to a certain extent. You feel like you're really making some kind of big leap by making this kind of change at this time, but we're seeing more and more teams do it. So this is an interesting shape here for Matt Dunstone. I think for Gushue, it's getting pretty ugly pretty quick. An angle in, yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like there right out front. I mean, that is just like there's like all of a sudden you've got the guards up there. You've got like a cluttered house as well. So things are just, yeah, as you say, it's like looking like a little bit of a mess here.
For Brad, the issue here is, you've got these two staggards. You don't see it in the overhead, but you see here in the left pane, you have that one guard. It's like, okay, if you're going to get rid of all of these staggers and free up this 4-foot, not only do you need to have one shot to run that guard into those staggers, but your shooter probably sticks around in the same spot. Then they put another guard up. Then you need to make that run again. So it's not tenable for this team. This is, though. And that does at least part of the trick. Now, they will still have these two guards to contend with, and Dunstone can throw another one in. But, yeah, Matt is in a great position to maybe take a couple here, honestly. You put that back. Like I was saying, it's like run that yellow in. You have to be super lucky for that one guard that you run in to spill out. Plus, you're going to have your shooter there. You have to make the same shot again.
Well, for Gushue, he had the right man, right spot. Because it was Mark Nichols that made the run back yesterday that pretty much closed the deal. It allowed them to get here to this qualifying game, and he did the run back on the angle, just almost similar shot to what he did last night. So that's going to use a lot of ice up here.
Yeah, I think your tolerance is to be on the wide side, because this stagger here that you have at the top of the house is pretty nice. So I think they want to ensure that they definitely make it around there and then hope you can kind of carve it over. Now, I'd imagine this is a line call to get this around. And sweeping a little early, maybe put it a couple extra feet on it. And thankfully, it doesn't really change too much for Gushue. They could end up, I think, hitting that yellow one eventually, trying to clear that one out the back. But I don't know if you could maybe get shot if you draw, maybe. Like just to about there is kind of the ideal. I'm not sure if the rocks in Swift Current are curling enough at the very end or hooking in enough to get to feel really comfortable with that. I think that's maybe what they're thinking, is it's maybe not the best. But from the left hack, Dan, you would be able to see a little bit of that redstone that Brad keeps tapping.
Yeah, you can see like half of it. That's what Mark's looking down there. And he has to step up from the hack. Let's look at it just a little bit more.
Come around is the call here. Mark Nichols, final stone here in the second end as Team Gushue looks to put something in potential scoring position, I think, at this point, Dan.
Yeah.
been real patient with Jeff to making sure he can carve it at the right time, but it's just a little too wide, I think. Yeah, it's just
stayed launched straight, came in, but a little bit too late, not in time. Bill Dunstone sitting too.
I'd imagine that draw just has to be so precise, you know, and it came in so wide, and I think that just had to be like a close to a 99%.
Well, this is what happens when you have the center line pretty much clogged up, as everybody at home sees. It's you have to go wide to try to get in. I don't know if it's got the curl to do it. It's been curled to this ice all weekend, but it's got to be a lot there. But Team Dunstone must be pretty happy with the way things are going. They got their 2 in the first, and they got some pressure here on Gushue here in the second.
Hardy with this 2-point lead, it's great opportunity to attack here if you're Team Dunstone. His first of 2 here in the second.
And we're here with Skip Stones here at number 2. That's applying the pressure. Pressure's on it already. This is where we'll start to dig in when we see it gets past that hog line. Starting to move, starting to come in. We'll tap the red.
And a little bump maybe just to be greedy, just to maybe sit 2. It's hard to tell exactly.
Yeah.
That is pretty nice here for Team Dunstone. Yeah, I'm wondering if they maybe see this. Yeah, that might be yellow. I don't know. I'm wondering if they see some kind of hit that could be advantageous for them. The only issue is you're just going to send yellow in towards the center line area. And if you get this view further out here, yeah, you can just see there, it's you can't really get to the inside of it. Couldn't really ask for a better stagger just in general here, because Dan, like, I think if you hit just about any piece of granite, if you're Gushue, I think it sends a yellow rock in towards the 4-foot. In any scenario, you can't really even remove anything without sending a yellow in towards that scoring area. So it's hard to see anything past the draw. I know that they're looking at something here, but you maybe have to throw a bunch of weight if you want that yellow to skate all the way across the center line. Maybe that's what the call is here.
Well, it's going to be really tough here to even get a multiple scorer for Gushue here. Godhammer here at number 2. As you said, like, all the rocks pretty much on one half of the sheet, as you see. The very tough shot, though. I mean, after having pretty much an easy in the qualifying game last night, he's had to face pressure cooker of a shot so far here. First to 2 from Gushue on its way. Lots of mustard on it. We'll punch one of the yellows out. Shooter will go. Jones now moves into the 8-foot area.
And I guess that was it. It was, there was enough separation on those yellows and red, and that yellow and red to allow it to scoot all the way through. And good line call, because the issue is if you hit that any thicker, you just end up sort of plopping a yellow rock in behind that really ugly stagger if you're looking in this left pane. So for Team Dunstone, it seemed like Matt just himself just kind of poked at his nose there. I'm wondering if they're just trying to think about just nosing that yellow. But if you draw in and you get to the inside edge of that red at all, you make this draw very difficult here for Gushue. If you end up nosing it, they might have, or you're a little bit outside, you might give them access to the 4-foot. But if you make that perfect right there where he puts his broom down there, just that inside edge of that red, Gushue has to draw cold on the other side to try to get something out of the end.
So we're into skip stones here in number 2. Dunstone leading 2-0 as the pressure here on Brad Gushue. Maybe force the Newfoundland Labrador team to take one here. Also, steel still also in effect here too. Lots of things on the board here for Dunstone as he get ready to throw his last with the hammer it in too.
Yeah, I think you could even kind of end up throwing like a back 4 and tap it back. I think that's maybe what they're thinking with the broom down here. Now, it doesn't look fast.
You see his head down now the rest of the way, trying to get it past. And they'll leave it just to the 8-foot area, so really making this scoring area very small to get to here for Team Gushue with their last year in 2.
Yeah, Matt would not be happy with that outcome, if you're considering the tolerance, how you wanted to ultimately miss that shot. This, I guess, isn't the worst, but at the same time, if you ever just beat that guard, you are sitting 2 and you're putting 1 on the side of the button and making it extremely difficult here for Brad. Now, they really want to find something. Gushue is intimating, I believe, this yellow slash.
Yeah.
So the yellow top 8 goes across the house and hits this rock at the back 4. I believe. So just missed that red. Yeah, that would be the only real, that's the only real outcome that is advantageous. I mean, this would be to score 1. Big risk, of course. Don't need to tell you that at home watching this, but if anybody can make it, it's Brad Gushue.
They had a hard game yesterday versus Team Epping and managed to get here to the quarterfinal Monday. Final score, Brad Gushue. Chips, yellow, and he'll get a single point here. Yeah, it was a hard fought single point for him here in number 2. So we're going to step out, take a break, and we'll return to Swift Current for the RBC Dominion Securities Western Showdown after that.
We asked Saskatchewan what they know about 5G.
More speed, more innovation.
It's going to make our lives a whole heck of a lot easier.
This is what 5G looks like.
Better, faster. Sounds like one more G. Sounds pretty good.
I don't know what it means.
All you really need to know is the future of 5G is here and will continue improving through investments in network technology.
Join us this March for the House of Hearts Charity Bonspiel in Duluth, Minnesota. Help raise funds for Project Joy, who provides meals for hungry kids in our community. Every donation helps to ensure no child goes hungry. Join us and make a difference. Together, we can spread joy.
Hey, Ben.
And welcome back to end number 3 of the RBC Dominion Securities Western Showdown. Dan Thompson, Marty, Thompson, and the rest of the curling stadium crew. 2-1 Dunstone over Gushue as we play the third. Dunstone, as you see, has the hammer, throwing the yellow stones. And it's one of those things that for Dunstone here, Marty, he got what he wanted. He definitely wanted at least Gushue to take one, because if you score 2, I give up 1. Now I have hammer, I can get 2. It's working out very well for him, his game plan so far here in this one.
It's funny though, you of course you go into ends without the hammer thinking that, but sometimes it's got to creep in your mind, especially looking at going into vice stones there. I'd imagine Matt had some sort of creeping thought thinking, is this going to be like a steal of 2? It was just with those staggers, it really was shaping up to be there. I think honestly they're maybe 1.5 shots away from actually securing at least a steal.
Yes.
But you have to sort of take it, that it's a really good end from this team. Obviously a solid first end as well. So it's got to keep rolling with the momentum and feeling like you've certainly got the edge on the reigning Canadian champions here.
And looking to be that end number 3 here is going to have lots of stones in play as well. So the first 2 definitely looks like we'll have that here in end number 3. This one will come in, and we'll just touch the Gushue rock. Once again, center line sort of clogged up already early going here in this third end.
Yeah, I see Gushue here now. Just you've maybe got a chance to attack these yellow stones and avoid the same issue you had in the second. You clear it up a little bit. Especially with Botcher throwing second stones, you just want to whack this. You dead nose it. You have 3 red rocks here at the top of the house, and you don't have hammer, so you're certainly in control of this key area.
One of the things you're going to notice with Botcher is when he's doing the sweep, and he's going to be on the outside more than the inside. We saw that in his game last night. He hits that and splits the yellow too, and removes them both, sticks there. Lie too, but he'll be on the outside. He's still trying to learn the sweeping, still trying to learn how the throwers throw and everything like that. So I was seeing that in their game last night.
Yeah, it's interesting with the sort of carving motion, and certainly folks that have a little bit more knowledge in terms of how sweeping operates. There's a nice little clear out there from EJ Harnden. Perhaps some people with a little bit more of the science background can sort of explain this, but that carving motion, that really quick sort of knifing, whatever you want to call it, it does seem to be that speed is certainly a factor to the rapidity of that motion seems to be really what allows that rock to curl over. At least from my personal experience experimenting with carving, it seems like, boy, if I could make more strides this way in that quicker motion rather than when you're sweeping inside, you typically you want to put, like you just see Jeff here, just making sure he's got lots of weight down on the rock. And Brendan obviously new to sweeping, and of course that makes a lot of sense. But he does seem to have a little bit more of that speed to that carving motion, perhaps more than Jeff does. Jeff's obviously a bigger player, bigger person. He can put more, he can afford to put more ice, or put more weight rather, on the ice and on the broom. So I think that's something to keep in mind, and maybe it makes no sense to people that would say otherwise. But I think that might be also another part of it. Of course, you want your stronger sweeper on the inside every time, of course. But maybe for Brendan, it's like, hey, if you're going to be outside, you see Colt Lott getting ready to carve here, you're just like, you just get ready to go and you just start pounding it. That can kind of maybe like be a little bit of a specialty, I guess, for sweeping to a certain extent. Of course, we see the teams in Switzerland and Italy that, they'll just have the big sweeper on the inside, and sometimes, if you're Switzerland with Benoit Swartz, he's almost just watching the rock. He's the second sweeper, but you just know he's not nearly as effective as their inside sweeper. So, yeah, I mean, there's certainly some feeling out for this team, but I think in general for sweeping, I think the sport has a long way to go in that regard too, and just trying to understand the science a little bit more about it.
Well, I kind of jinxed ourselves because I said there's going to look like to be lots of rocks here. Not so much here at end number 3 after a couple of ends. So we're into third stones. As Mark Nichols easily by is going to chip out that yellow stone. Will he get a roll? No, pretty much just on the nose. No roll. So wide open here for the Dunstone team. Updating everybody on what's going on the other sheets. Of course, it's quarterfinals Monday. Rylan Kiter and Brad Jacobs tied at 2. Rick Gears out of Westminster, British Columbia, of a 2-1 lead. He's got hammer as they are into the 4th over Mike McEwen. John Epping of a 2-0 lead over Kevin Cooey. This said, we'll keep you up to date on those games, so you can stick it right here and let you know what's going on in the other sheets in the quarterfinals here on the RBC Dominion Securities Western Showdown. So you see they're getting a little bit more away from the rigs, or getting more to the outside as they're into the 12-foot area. So after seeing it end with lots of stones in the first 2, as I mentioned, as Nichols does get a hit, a little bit more roll, but still into the 12-foot area. So after having a couple of hits, lots to talk about. Nothing much here in this third hit. Definitely sort of like, maybe one of those ones that, hey, we might have to pump the brakes. You may not be able to win the match in the third end, but you certainly could lose it. So team's happy just to be a little bit clean here in this third end.
Yeah, I'll just take a quick look. I know we brought in some commenters there at the start of the stream, but I want to thank people from all over watching this game. I think we saw Mount Pearl there in Newfoundland and Labrador, Halliburton, Nova Scotia, Gushue fan, classic. We've got even Jamaica, someone tuning in from Jamaica. Appreciate that. Hamoda, I believe I'm saying that right, Manitoba, and I imagine they're cheering for Team Dunstone. Again, thanks everybody for tuning in. I know this is certainly one of the top games here in this quarterfinal, but you mentioned that Ryan Kleider, Brad Jacobs game, already 2-2. Those are 2 really exciting teams to watch. I think if you're not familiar with Ryan Kleider, from watching, primarily, I guess your slams and Briar Scotties, what have you on TV, that is a really fun team, and certainly on the up.
A young team as well, because they were at the U20s back in 2019, 2020, and they won a bronze medalist. So they had 2 times as they were back-to-back, and doing very well on the World Curling Team rankings. They sit 20th, so a lot of people maybe think, oh, well, that might have been a little bit of a mismatch versus Jacobs. Jacobs being number 5 in the world curling tour there, but definitely a young, up and coming, and exciting team to watch.
Certainly, a lot of discussions over the, that kind of that next generation, not only just the legit next gen program. We see this role is going to be awfully good for Dunstone, just for fun to see if he can't put it around that one guard. But that next gen classic that they put in for that U25 level, they won it. You got to start to sort of think about what these next generation of players going to come from, and how we're going to sort of prop them up. The fact that Mike McEwen out of Saskatchewan is going to gain that automatic berth to the Brier, that's certainly going to help Kleider in that sort of Saskatchewan Sasktel tanker to try to get through and represent Saskatchewan at that level. But I think just the idea that they've got those competitions specifically geared for those younger players, prop them up a little bit, and then sort of send them on their way is certainly quite helpful.
Next out here in number 3.
And shout out to
Walker.
Nick and Kathy, sorry, just really quickly, from St. John's and from New Brunswick. I'd imagine both also cheering for Gushue. So again, we get people tuning in from all over today. Thank you so much for watching.
Look at that. After having struggles, he had the hit, got a little bit of rolled in behind it.
Yeah, that's a nice little spot. See how awkward it is for Dunstone. You got the two options. You got the draw or this play here, and yeah, it's kind of where you want that rock. Nice little one, and at least puts a little bit of pressure after, as you mentioned, Dan, just kind of a less exciting end compared to the first two, but put a little bit of pressure on the opposing skip at the end just for fun, and see if you can't get a miss and potentially get a point here going into the fourth.
Now, one of the things that we've learned a lot about here for the Showdown weekend, which began play Thursday, no lead's really safe. Dunstone, that's trying to get past that guard. He does, and now he'll chip. Will he roll out enough to? No, he won't. He'll get a single point, so we'll have a 3-1 lead and give Gushue the hammer here for end number 4. So the Gushue with that great hit and made in behind the guard, and it's a point. So 3-1's where we stand here. We'll take a break. This is the RBC Dominion Securities Western Showdown here at Curling Stadium.
I don't remember a time when curling wasn't a part of my life. When I wasn't putting in the sweat and hard work to be the best that I can be. Clocking in the time, the effort to practice day in, day out. Curling is more than just a game. It's a family, a community. And when it's time to play, I know I'll be ready. Hardline, supporting hundreds of our next generation athletes.
Saskatchewan, you know Sasktel because we're everywhere. Because being everywhere keeps us connected to you. With Sasktel sponsorships, we get to be part of your community. We're here with you, and we're here for you. It's easy to get started. All you need to do is apply. Sasktel cares. Always has, always will. To apply for sponsorship, visit sasktel.com/sponsorships.
And welcome back. And there we are taking a look at some of the scores for the other sheets. As you see, Jacobs and Fighter 2-2 as they play the fourth. And Pierce had that 2 there back in N3 and has a 2-1 lead over Mike McEwing. And John Epping with a 2-0 lead over Kevin Cooey. As we said, we'll keep you up to date. All those games also on Curling Stadium. But if you're here, we're glad that we are here. Marty, Thompson, Dan Hobson, we've got in number 4 here of the RBC Dominion Securities Western Showdown quarterfinal. We've got Gushue versus Dunstone. Gushue has the hammer here, throwing the red stones at end number 4. And Marty, how quickly sort of the synopsis has changed. We were talking about how Dunston got that 2 and end number 1 and happy to give Gushue the 1. Gushue was probably happy that Dunston took the 1. Now he's got the hammer and looking for a deuce to try to get back to evening here, almost at the halfway point here of this matchup.
Yeah, and just again, it's like I sort of said there at the end, it's like, oh, just see if you can't force the skip to a miss. And then for Dunstone, it was just, you love to throw that board weight, when you're at this level, because if you can throw that, you can really, especially in the start of the game, you can get a good feel for it. It really helps later on, especially in club curling. But for him, it was just, got too thick of the rock. I think they were maybe a little scared about, getting a little too wide. So they carved it and they just got too much of it. So, yeah, I mean, obviously very, very fine details. But, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if this is your sort of main critique for, seeing pens with lots of rocks or not a lot of rocks. At the end of the day, it comes down to those fine details no matter what. So, for Gushue, yeah, I mean, certainly a good result in that end. They've got a chance to clear these out, and they will, but that yellow will roll not quite behind the corner guard. And there's at least something to work with here for Team Dunstone here in the fourth. I still certainly like their chances in this game. They've been playing quite well. It's got to keep the momentum.
They assessed. Archer split things open here just a bit, opening things up here for Team Dunstone.
Yeah, good opportunity just to wrap around this guard down the middle, and then suddenly, you kind of focus the play down the middle, but you certainly can't discount these 2 biters. Glorified biters. They're pretty fully in the 12-foot, but you have this focus across the house. You don't want to leave the double. You might. But maybe you don't even need to go after there. If you're Gushue, you can leave the double for later. So, yeah, I mean, there's not a bad shape here for Dunstone to try to at least put a couple rocks in it and see where you end up.
Newly acquired Botcher.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how this team will, come to shape as Team Canada, especially through the Brier and some of these later Grand Slam events. They lost the final in the points bet, and then the Tour Challenge as well, and they're right there to figuring out this new lineup as well. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be really intriguing to see just how they sort of come to be as the season progresses. I think the Botcher move is you can't really complain if you're a fan of Team Gushue in terms of getting a free agent like that. It just comes down to the role. I know we talked about that earlier, Dan, but yeah, I mean, it's a team that's incredibly dominant, as we mentioned, and have been for quite some time. And, it's trying to sort of maintain that progression through this next quadrennial. Switching into the game, though, here we see Dunstone trying to figure out the best way to sort of attack this. And maybe the call, get a little bit of separation on that yellow stone that's behind the red, like sort of bump it back into the, the back button or T-line zone, and then you can at least make Gushue have to throw something a little uglier to try to get rid of it. if you sort of end up corner frozen on it, then it's pretty easy to remove, and then Gushue has one top 4 in its shot. In the 8 and 12 foot.
Well, it's been documented all weekend about maybe the struggles that the team Gushue has had, and that if there's been a shining light, it's been the play of Mark Nickel. So we're into third stones here, and in number 4.
Great sweep.
Walker brushing hard, head down all the way. Will chip the yellow, also chip that other yellow out.
You know what? That works. Yeah, a bigger roll than they wanted. Yeah, maybe it was just. I'm trying to sort of read lips here with Brad and Mark. Yeah, it was maybe just a little less weight than they thought, but yeah, you're right. I mean, Nichols has been playing well, and he'll go down as one of the best curlers that this country's ever produced, in my mind. I think it's you know, it's hard when you're sort of playing behind someone like Brad, but you know, he really has been one of the most consistent curlers for a long time, and took time off and came back, and is, you know, really this dominant period that this team has had out of Newfoundland and Labrador has come, you know, after that time off. And you know, I just remember him coming back and just immediately back to that sort of top form. Certainly one of the best throwers that's in the game right now. So now's the time for Brad and Mark to go after this double. Looks pretty clean right now. Or that, yeah, that's pretty nice too. I think they're thinking about running that center guard into the yellow, and then you spill the yellow sideways, you lose the yellow that's on the back 4, and then the red that you run in kind of like will roll over to the right-hand side of our screen if we're looking at the house. That way you've got 2 red rocks in. This way, though, if you do this hit and roll, the shooter will, if you make it amazing, the shooter will still kind of be somewhat exposed, which could be annoying, because then you could have Dunstone come down, and Skipstone's coming up, Dunstone come down and just hit it, roll behind cover or wherever. This red run is certainly the most aggressive of the 2 calls. And now's the time to be aggressive.
Well, you know what they say, big risk, big reward. Of course. Sometimes also these days, it's another term that can be used. Sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug.
I like that. I've never heard that one. I like that, Dan. I like that.
I've used it a lot. Used it a lot of my sports broadcasting days.
Not a ton of weight on this.
Yeah, that's gonna just open up like the house in front of the house, but not really gonna help anything that went on or going on in that house right now. So
yeah, it's tough, right? Because if you're Gushue, you kind of want this exposed, because you hope to eventually have a shot where you can perhaps just unmoor this yellow rock in the forefoot eventually. But as Dunstone's already intimating, it's like, boy, you just maybe the double's not very clean because that red is melded on there, but if you could ever whack it out, there's a chance you're sitting 3. And all three of them kind of bundled in the front.
First conversation, it looked like trying to get that chip that red and bring the yellow in and get that red out of there to sit 3.
Yeah. We don't see it's really risky, but you can almost just see what EJ's thinking. This was like I was also thinking, hey, what if you just kind of promote that Yellowstone? You could even get a stagger, like you kind of maybe just pump up that yellow. Same thing that they were trying earlier in the end, where they just sort of push that Yellowstone of theirs farther back. You're risking that they can gear affect it out, so that's probably not the call, if I'm being honest with my own opinion. But I really like this double. It's like there's a couple ways you can miss it too, I think. If you end up sort of hitting it really, really thick, you just end up sort of having your shooter roll on top of that red anyways, and it might even make that little whack out that I said that Gushue will want to have. And just remove that one. It might make it like a little harder, might make them staggered, I don't know. It might give them something else, but can't really put the guard back up because he'll do this. So yeah, I think that's the call.
Brad Jacob with a big 3 spot in the end number 4. Lead Ryland Glider 5-2 as they play the 5th. Here still A to McEwen 3-1 as they play the 5th. Kevin Coey with a deuce there at end number 4 has tied that up at 2-2. Quarterfinal Monday from Swift Current. Skip Stone here at end number 4. Gushue with the hammer, the first of 2 from Dunstone. Light brushing here. They'll just get a nose hit and remove the red stone.
Yeah, sweeping pretty early on that one. It didn't quite like it.
Well, we saw the head gesture pretty much. It's almost like it was heavy from pretty much like what's left his hand, because they saw that from the front end there, just with the hand signals there to indicate that.
This team out of Newfoundland and Labrador, the shot that Brad's suggesting is to hit that Yellowstone on, I guess, Mark's side right now, the one of the top 8, have it spill to the opposite side of Mark, have the yellow spill out the back, and then have the shooter kind of roll behind that Yellowstone that Dunstone just threw, and could be sitting 3. I think it's again, we should note that. And I know people at home are watching the top of house view and they think they see something. Sometimes these cameras aren't exactly over the pin, so it can just skew with your vision a little bit. So before you make any predictions, just keep that in mind.
Big weight here from Gushue. Skip Stones in 4. She bang. Gets rid of the yellow stones. One on the back and one just outside the 12-foot area.
Yeah, just the key was to get that shooter to roll. Now Dunstone has a pretty straightforward double at least. I don't know if you can get, I think you just focus on just clearing them out and just leaving it right there.
Well, yeah, there's nothing, nowhere to hide really.
Yeah, I think you're maybe looking at that too. I mean, they're looking at this, but it just kind of cool. It's like, is the triple there? I guess you only really need to nudge that red rock. Again, it looks like they're Looks like their third shot. But big shot here for sure. I would just focus on the double. Maybe give them 2. That's all right. Give up that advantage you had to the first 4, but a big shot. You never know. Triple certainly on if they throw enough weight.
Let's get big weight from Dunstone. And chipped both of the rocks out, leaves it right out there, but as you see, wide open.
Yeah, solid attempt. Brad now has that sort of inside-out draw, which will be, a new path, but there's lots of space on it. Yeah, another good solid end here from Dunstone. They few shots short. I think that the first couple ends, if we're looking at this as sort of the first half of the game, that had lots of opportunities to really blow the game up. And for Gushue, they're really rounding into form. It feels like momentum-wise. Make this draw, take your 2, and then head into the fifth end here tied.
Gave up 2 in end number 1. That's a single point, and then forced out to take a single point. Final stone for Team Gushue out of Newfoundland, Labrador. Sitting 1 in the bank account already, looking to try to make it 2 and tie this game halfway home on a Monday morning from Swift Current. And does. So 3 threes where we stand halfway home, as I mentioned, and we're going to take a break. We'll be back with the fifth end of the RBC Dominion Securities Western Showdown from Swift Current. Back after these words.
Hey Ben, what's the Aztec safety on?
For over 20 years, the Sandra Schmirler Foundation has granted more than $9 million to hospitals across Canada for life-saving equipment for premature and critically ill babies. In the past 4 years alone, $4 million has been granted thanks to the curling community's incredible generosity. The need continues year-round, and with your help, we can ensure every baby has the chance to grow up and become a champion, just like Sandra.
We asked Saskatchewan what they know about 5G.
More speed, more innovation.
It's gonna make our lives a whole heck of a lot easier.
This is what 5G looks like.
Better, faster. Sounds like one more G. Sounds pretty good.
I don't know what it means.
All you really need to know is the future of 5G is here and will continue improving through investments in network technology.
And welcome back to Swift Current, Saskatchewan, the Swift Current Curling Club. the RBC Dominion Securities Western Showdown. We have Brad Gushue from the Red Stones. So take a look at Ryan Harden, who's the lead here for Team Dunstone. Dunstone has the hammer here, throwing the Yellowstones. And then number 5, Marty Thompson, Dan Hobson, and the rest of the curling stadium crew. Glad you can join us on this quarterfinal Monday from Swift Current, Saskatchewan. Tied at 3. Marty, it just seemed like the first 4 ends were sort of like sample sizes. We started the game tied, and so far we're here in end number 5. We're still tied. Even Steven, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for the experienced curling fans watching, you know, we get very few opportunities. I think since the change, at least for Dunstone, if I'm not mistaken, this might be one of the first, maybe second or third, maybe spiel they played with this new lineup. Just been enjoying watching, honestly, the Brush brothers get back together. I think this is just great for this team, and you know, you can't really ask for much more in terms of team chemistry. As always, it's as we mentioned there with Gushue, you know, we mentioned them going through in the C event and coming through, as someone just mentioned there on rightly in the comments, that they are a team that sort of comes in later in the year, and you're right, they certainly do round into form, but this is, again, like you said, this is a cash deal, but the teams here really are, you know, this is we were calling it kind of like a Grand Slam light. You know, there's all fantastic teams here, so it's a good test. It's obviously great that everyone's able to watch, and yeah, I'm really curious to see what happens in the next 4 ends. I think Dunstone's played quite well, but Gushue's had their opportunities, and you know, we'll see where this ends up here. As we have a second of the Brush brothers here, at least in the order of shooting, trying to clear this guard.
Well, we see things really change at the quick of a hat. We see lots of rocks there the first couple of ends, and then not much in the third, and then back almost to more rocks to play the fourth. And here we are in the 5th there. Just one Yellowstone of Dunstone as we take a look at Brendan Botcher getting ready to get his throw underway here in end number 5. A long time skip, as we've always documented here throughout the broadcast, Marty and I have. So pretty much nose hit. Gushue lies one just for the meantime, but teams are going to be, looks like they're going to trade shots here in this 5th end.
Yeah, certainly shaping up to that blank. I was just looking at the comments here. We got some really great discussions and some compliments for us too. Believe it or not, Dan, people said nice things about us. That's good.
Wow. Oh, that's good.
No, I was just seeing some comments here with you know, folks. Maybe, I'm not sure if speculating is the right word, but just talking about sort of the general vibe or expressions on this Team Gushue team or vice versa. I try to, you know, the sport is interesting in that you can get a lot out of watching the game in terms of people's expressions. You know, it's you can compare it to basketball, for example, where it has an advantage over stuff like hockey or football, where there's too much equipment, where you can really sort of sense expressions in interpersonalization and everything. You know, it's hard not to read into it when you're watching it. I understand that. I'm not actually saying, I think they're just saying that Gushue is maybe not as fun-loving as he was previously. But, you know, I think we're at our best if we try to park that a little bit. You know, at the end of the day, these are athletes, and, you know, the interpersonal, you know, stuff that they sort of feel on the ice, you know, they're competing at a high level. You know, they're playing a very difficult sport. They're playing a very stressful sport, if we're being honest. So it's tough, right? It's hard even with, you know, I'm sure you've had that too, Dan, or when I watch, you know, it's hard not to sort of see someone's expression or see an interaction with another player and read into it. But at the end of the day, you know, that it's up to them to also manage these types of relationships off the ice and ensure that they can compete at their best level. So yeah, I mean, as much as you could sort of say, well, man, so-and-so looked a little pouty this game or whatever, you know, that just kind of comes with the territory. And at the end of the day, these are all athletes that are, you know, managing the emotions that come with a very emotional game. And, you know, unless you sort of see unless you're really certain of a real, you know, years long pattern with one player, it's certainly hard to read into the sort of interpersonal nature of how teams sort of evolve. I think this Gushue team is another great example, right? Adding Brennan Botcher, a top level skip at second, right? This is this is a whole nother kettle of fish even for how he will communicate for shot calling. If Brad, Mark, Jeff, if they lean on him for that or whatever, it's a very it's very sort of it's a loose thing. It's hard to grasp, how teams sort of operate. You can sort of make those assumptions, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's I just want to sort of point that out, is just sort of say you got to kind of park it a little bit, because these are, it's hard to know everything exactly that goes on. And to be honest, especially with teams now parting with players in the way that they are halfway through the season, surely not all the time due to, interpersonal conflict or even their shot calling. Sometimes it just genuinely seems like it is a team trying to make a change for the sake of making a change. You just have to sort of chalk it up to just being business.
Absolutely, some great points. And the thing is, talking to or hearing some of the speaking seminars that Brad Gushue has gone to, he's quite open with his teammates. Like he's an open communicator. If he says that he knows that he's not having a good day, he lets everybody know he's not. So he is a really good communicator. There's good communication with his team, based on talking to him on some of the seminars that he's had as we're at Jeff Stone's here at number 5. So.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to know more about those seminars. I think that Dan, maybe you're putting words in his mouth a little bit. Sometimes like that vulnerability is key, right? Just to sort of say, or just to be that honesty and just making sure that there's no ego amongst the team or whatever. There's no sort of sore spots like that can really bring a team forward. It really can. And understanding limitations and, all of that, it really does play into a key team dynamic.
Very quiet in number 5 as they get a little bit of a hit and a roll in the 8-foot area. So just exchanging shot. I'm still looking to carry the hammer into 6, but you can't really anticipate it. You have to wait for the shots to be made, and the shots have to be made.
At least we're not playing on a clock. If this was on TV, they'd just be speeding through this one for sure. You see Gushue just trying to poke this Yellowstone out.
If there's ever a day where you want to have like 4 televisions in your living room, Marty, today's the day.
Or iPads or laptops or phones or anything you can get. Agreed.
Kleider's last rock at number 5, trail him Drake by 3, but he's looking at a heck of a mess. So we'll keep you updated on that one. Guess if we want to use an 80s term of a show that used to be on, that will be our update game. But Kleider will chip and get a single point, make it 5-3 as they play the 5th, as we return our concentration here on end number 5 between Gushue and Dunstone. Final stone on the way. We're going to hit, roll out, and carry the hammer into 6. And he does easily there. So we have our first blank of the game. 3-3 after 5. We'll go to the 6 after this break from the RBC Dominion Securities Western Showdown here on Curling Stadium.
So with the impact to my business and income, will this delay my retirement?
I know you're worried, Marshall, but based on the original plan we came up with, you're only about 6 months behind.
I thought it would be years, not months.
You should feel good. Remember, you've got a plan.
Thanks.
With change comes questions. See the impact of your money decisions before you make them with RBC Wealth Plan.
handcrafted in Canada, Hardline's ice pad has revolutionized curling for over a decade. Engineered with top-tier precision and durability, it is backed by an unmatched 10-year warranty. Designed for curlers at all levels to sweep effortlessly with maximum efficiency, it is trusted by the world's best curlers, including Olympic and world champions. It is quite simply the best brew in the game. Hardline. Join the revolution.
Back to back there. And welcome back here. We're in end number 6 between Brad Gushue and Ryan Dunstone here at the quarterfinals of the 2024 RBC Dominion Securities Western Showdown here on Curling Stadium. Marty, Thompson, Dan Thompson, and the rest of the Curling Stadium crew as we've got a dandy shaping way here. Dunstone started off with 2 in the first and forced Gushue to take 1, and then Gushue forced Dunstone to take 1. We are basically at 3-3 as we head to the 6th. Once again, Dunstone having the hammer, throwing the yellow stones. And Marty, we want to talk about the women's event that took place here. Of course, Zina Schwaller winning back-to-back years here. So the big weekend for her.
Yeah, she played fantastic in 2023, this event. So congratulations to her. But saw a good chunk of Canadian content make it through the quarterfinal and semifinal, but I wanted to make a quick point of highlighting Michelle Englot. So you may recognize her. I believe the last time she played at sort of the Scotties level, I think she played for Manitoba and I think she made a final. She won an extra end semifinal against Delaney Strauss out of Traverse City, and then in that championship final went to the extra against Schwaller and lost. Now that's one of the few Saskatchewan teams that was in the women's events. They maybe had a little bit of boost playing at home. The only ones that made the playoffs. Here we do have these 2 Saskatchewan teams in Kleider and McEwen. McEwen is still in this event as well. So a little bit of a hometown boost there for Michelle Englot, and good to see her and that squad competing well here, especially as they ramp up for provincials and such. And Saskatchewan on the women's side as well is certainly wide open too. You know, it's just kind of like how the men's has been for quite some time. I know Dunstone had a decent run out there in Saskatchewan, but you know, there's lots of solid teams, no real dominant one in those provinces, which makes, you know, at least for someone like myself who doesn't live in Saskatchewan, makes tuning into those tankards interesting. You know, it just shows that there's lots of options and lots of variability. So certainly looking forward to that. You see this Redstone just roll in behind here for Gushue. So rock corner buried without hammer, and they now have a chance to really take hold of the house here by coming around the center guard.
Just to follow up on the women's play, I had a chance to see Strauss versus Caitlin Laws a couple of nights ago, and Strauss got off to that lead. Big 4 spot in end number 1, and you know, Laws fought to get back up within 2, but it was like the score really indicated how well Strauss played and carried that strong play into the weekend. So a team from the United States had a good strong showing here at the championship as well.
Yeah, certainly did. Certainly did.
Well, this isn't looking to be a conservative end here, my friend Marty, as they're coming around that guard and will sit and look buried right underneath it. Well, some of the struggles that the Gushue team have had, they've really rectified in such a short amount of time. I haven't seen a lot of errors from them, so they are on their game today against the Dunstone team.
Yeah, nice little wrap there from Botcher for sure. Dunstone really no choice but to go after this Yellowstone. A run back or appeal is good. Aiming for the run back, though, it looks like, with this line call.
Well, you can tell with the yellow that they're close. There it is. Bang, bang. Once again, they're going to try to get that over just a bit more into the 8-foot area. And a little bit of debris cleaning to boot.
Yeah, another rock or so, that would have been quite the shot for this Dunstone team heading into Vice Stones.
Whatever about the Clyder and Jacobs game, we'll get everybody up to date on the other two games as well. We're 3-3 here. Seems to be a common trend. It's 3-3 between McEwen and Pierce, as McEwen got 2 in the 5th that they play the 6th.
And then Nichols got.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that a single point, a couple of points there for McEwen. He's tied it up 3-3, and it's still 2-2 as they play the 6th with Epping and Bowie.
Nichols got fooled with how much that curled inside out, I think. And just wicking off that red is just really not the way you want to miss this. The call from Dunstone is to just split the house. Come around on this side. Be sitting to cross house as we see, Nichols and Gushue, they certainly won't shy away from trying to double these out. Now, this does not seem like it's a lot of weight.
Yeah, they got both of their heads are down here. Trying to drag it as far as they can. Drag it into the 8 to line 2.
Great sweep there. That's why you want to have the Brush brothers sweeping. That's, I bet Colin's feeling pretty good about being able to throw it to the two of them. Now, Gushue with this hit and roll, it is above tee, but you really got to be careful that you make this just about perfect. You've got to be at least maybe just behind tee, but still on the 4 foot. So crucial hit and roll here for Mark Nichols heading into Skip Stones.
Botcher, Walker. There's the hit off the stone throw by Nichols and a little roll to the 4-foot area to lie 1.
Crucially here for Dunstone, that's a miss from Nichols because now Dunstone can make this double, if he's intimating where he wants that rock, not only next to impossible, but have 2 of these rocks buried. Still has to make it though with Colton Lott. Either that or you try to kind of throw some speed, but I think you really have to end up somewhere near this Yellowstone where Mark Nichols has his mount.
Watcher coming in to join the conversation with Nichols and Gushue.
I mean, these are all top-level play callers. It's more about, here's what I'm thinking. If someone comes in, okay, if you thought about this, they could also do this, right? Maybe someone is thinking, that 4 or 5 steps ahead, and maybe they say, hey, have you thought about this potential outcome? So just where they just put the broom at the end, I think it's the corner freeze on this yellow. So shrink the scoring area for sure. They might be sitting 1, but then you could potentially have a draw round after. You could have an instance where you could maybe even hit that red stone that you throw and have it roll in 4 foot. I like this play call for sure here for a Gushue. Put it in there and set yourself up later here for something on your last.
Gushue calling for a little bit more ice from Mark Nichols as we're at skip codes at number 6. They had the late game last night, so they've had short rest to get back here and be ready for this quarterfinal Monday. Walker, head down, try to drag it. Nichols joining the party as well. And they'll be the shot stone for the meantime, July 1.
Yeah, that was a little wider than they thought. I'm curious if maybe can be weight sensitive too, right? Sometimes if you end up throwing something top 8 weight-ish or top 12, it'll curl a lot more than if you throw T or back 4. Unfortunately, just couldn't quite bring that one all the way over. Now, I guess the good news for Gushue is that in all likelihood here, we'll see Dunstone hit this red stone and roll wide. So Brad will have the same shot again. And in this case, he'll probably want to, in fact, wrap it again around these yellow stones. So at least get set up. You know what you potentially erred on there, and you can get set here as you watch Dunstone really try to attack here in the 6th end. They're in good shape.
First to 2 from Dunstone. And number 6. Manitoba tuck throwing style.
You're going to get a good chunk of this red stone for sure.
They'll punch it. Will they stick around? They will be back 12.
That's excellent weight for Matt Dunstone. Again, like I said, that really soft, that board weight. You're feeling good throwing it to the Brush brothers too. They can control it. That's just about perfect, right? Big roll, and you're fully buried. And you have Mark Nichols and Brad Gushue determining if they want to actually attack these other ones. The 2 yellows here. Already just wrap around. I don't think they're going to corner freeze on it. So they're going to draw into those yellows, and hopefully if you make that just right, you're sort of frozen on top of the yellow, you just give Dunstone 2. They must think that, trying to draw around these yellows is not advantageous. The 2 yellows here, the guard and then the rock there, top 8. It's curling, but maybe not as much as it would be, for example, on arena ice if we're watching, a big event in an arena. So this seems like the safer call. Just come right to these yellows, and then hopefully you just plant this on, and then you give Dunstone 2. I think the key is also just to be completely nose frozen to that yellow stone.
Well, we're into the late stages. This is end number 6.
It's really curling off the center line. It's really moving.
A draw weight, which was a struggle yesterday, and that is going to come up short.
Yeah, unknown. It just it was moving so quickly there. It's the pictures. I know it's not exactly the clearest, but you can certainly make out the center line, and And yeah, it just started to boogie right off the center line pretty early in the trajectory. That's not good news if you're a Gushue fan watching this, as we have Matt Dunstone with the draw. You only have to be full 12 to get 4 points here in the sixth end. And we should note too, with Dunstone having this hammer in the sixth, that means that ideally, in a perfect world, he has it in the sixth and eighth, which is more than Gushue will just have it in the seventh. So massive opportunity to take advantage of that double hammer opportunity here for Matt Dunstone.
He had the hammer at number 1, and he put up a crooked number. He's looking to put up a crooked number times 2. A shot for 4 from Dunstone. Final stone in 6.
They're taking this one a little wider, and smart just to have the brush down all the way. You know, your tolerance is certainly to be heavy on this one. You've got lots of ring to throw to, and that's a pretty nice draw here from this team out of Manitoba.
Count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4 for Dunstone. A 7-3 lead. Gushue to have the hammer in the 7th, and we'll be back here in fifth third after these words.
We asked Saskatchewan what they know about 5G.
More speed, more innovation.
It's gonna make our lives a whole heck of a lot easier.
This is what 5G looks like.
Better, faster. Sounds like one more G. Sounds pretty good.
I don't know what it means.
All you really need to know is the future of 5G is here and will continue improving through investments in network technology.
Hey, Ben, what's the
Shot of the crowd on hand that's here at Swift Current, Saskatchewan. They've had a chance to see some great curling. Let's take a look at the scores. As I said, 7-3 right now is our matchup. Leiter and Jacobs 5-3 as they are now just throwing the final stone here is Team Kleider in end number 6. So just having that as my update game on the big screen here. And the broadcast location, and Pierce with a 4-3 lead over McEwen. And Epic and Cooey are tied at 2. As we are back here, this is end number 7 with Jacob, with Brad Gushue and Ryan Dunstone, and Dunstone with a big 4 in that 6 bid. So Gushue has the hammer, throwing the red stones here in end number 7. And Marty, one of the things that I had a chance to like in the Hoybrook game yesterday, he got off to that good 4-0 lead, but There sometimes you can just sort of see that the draw weight, he's been a little bit light a couple of times, and even our broadcast colleague Jim Nick said the same thing in the game last night when he had the call. So, and all of a sudden, it just seems to be with this field, if you make even a half mistake, it could be really big.
Yeah, it's interesting when you miss. Brad Gushue misses so few shots that it's funny when you kind of catch any kind of pattern. They seem to be quite disparate, or certainly not based on the athlete or conditions or something. Yeah, something to watch out for. It could be anything. Could be mechanical, whatever, ice, rock, whatever. I guess he was throwing inside out. That might have been different. That they might have been fooled by that path, but obviously we had the sweepers there on that pretty early. So yeah, I mean that's an astute observation to have be brought forward, and especially as it sort of comes around in the playoffs again. So something to watch for here in the 7th, because you would ideally, if you're Brad Gushue, have a draw for a couple points at the end here to try to bring this game within reach. So something to keep in mind as we see a classic double shot here from Team Dunstone, wicking this guard off and having your shooter roll out. Might be a little too much. Oh, that's just
but they'll try to push that rock out there is Dunstone with the blue jacket here, scraping it towards the back and outside.
That is just a fantastic shot. Again, something that's been ported over from the doubles game. You can have your shooter roll out, but you can move that stone that's in the playing area anywhere. And they put the rock there. I think the Reed Crothers that maybe called that area in the back, they called it the coffin corner. That's such a precise shot. Comes down to weight, right? For sure. But, if you really think about, if you're a club curler, you're like, okay, I want to be able to push this rock that's, about right here, 1 or 2 guard. I want to be able to push it back to that corner. Some curlers, if they want to send it to the opposite side, they would be tempted to throw, like at, like board or something, or quite a bit of weight, when in reality, you kind of want to you kind of want to throw a soft board or something, or because you can't get a big chunk of it because you need your shooter to roll out. So that's a really, really precise shot. And again, just complete credit to this team, because you just see, just in the doubles game with the power play situation, you just see exactly how much it nullifies an end like this, right? Because now, Brad's in robot mode because he just has to call the same thing now, right? You're just putting it right back. There's no opportunity to attack. That is, I think that for a shot early in an end, I don't think people give that shot nearly enough credit. So well played there by BJ.
7-3 at our game here. 7-3. Jacob over Kleider as they play the 7th. So the 7th are wild on this Monday morning here for Cliff Kirk.
Yeah, another good run here from Brent Pierce as well. Excited to see them make it to the stage. I know they had some pretty solid games here in the triple knockout, so best luck to them as well.
And for Team Dunstone, just happy to keep everything clean here. Up by 4, less rocks, so better for them. Gushue, looking to get as much rocks in play. Try to get a 4 here.
Yeah, a really good game here from Team Dunstone thus far. You'd really hope that they were able to settle in with BJ joining the team, and I'd imagine they're in a good shape. Just the familiarity, not only with his brother, but the rest of the team. He's a known quantity, so yeah, it's good to see that they're playing quite well, and this will be a nice little bonus that they're able to sort of move on in this event. Dunstone did sort of it was one of those interviews did around the Grand Slam, just talked about the team wanting to find a little bit more momentum like they did, I think, at the start of the quadrennial there. When BJ was on the team, I think they were just in complete control there. I think they won on some absurd run. It was in 2013 when they eventually made it to the Brier final. So, yeah, I mean, stringing together a couple event wins and, you know, head into provincials. I mean, this is a team that has lots of talent. It's a young team too. They're certainly hungry. They see that back end there. Definitely a team that is one to watch, and a team that's also, to be honest, be fun to cheer for. Just like Team Gushue is, of course. We have so many. I just saw someone hop in there from Connecticut cheering for Team Gushue. So Newfoundland is global, let's say.
Got to go to the back 8. You're saying about Brent Pierce, he got a single-pointed 6, so he now up 4-3 over McEwen, with McEwen having the hammer at end number 7.
Oh, that's fun. That's really fun. Especially, you know, when you have McEwen wanting to sort of chase a game. That's just great viewing. Happy to bring you all these games here in this event. It's certainly a highlight. Those who like to watch curling, there's as mentioned, there's lots of good teams in this event, and one of the last times we're going to take a look at these teams before, as you mentioned too, how they will start to head into sort of play down mode and provincials mode. Get one more slam, and then after that we're really gearing up.
Big weight is going to skip code here at end number 7.
Nice little shot there from Matt.
Shooter stays here to line 1, but Dunstone up by 4. Not really any of his worries, not much of his concern as of now.
So the winner of this game will play the winner of Ryland Kleider and Brad Jacobs is the 4-5 game. And Mike McEwen would be technically the second seed, is another team that went in to the A qualifier. They're playing 7 and Brent Pierce, and then you have John Epping and Kevin Cooey at 3 and 6. John Epping's another team that was really one to watch. Quietly putting together some big wins and spiels here in Ontario and elsewhere. Really intriguing outfit out of Northern Ontario.
Walker and Watcher pushing this as far as they can.
It just wicked off that top 4. Over curled on them again a little bit. So yeah, I guess if you're Dunstone, you just want to hit, and maybe you kind of end up touching the 4-foot somewhere in there. At least make Brad shoot at this one. Yeah, not the execution that Team Gushue would have wanted out of this last one for sure. But again, it comes back to that perfect tick here from Hardin. It really does change a complexion of an end quite quickly.
Lots of giddy up on that. Goes the red Gushue Snow. Shooter goes as well. There's going to be handshakes that go around here as Dunstone defeats Gushue 7-3. And they won't play the 8th end. And Dunstone will move on.
Yeah, I mean, a well-played game here from Team Dunstone. Even that first end, they certainly had some decent momentum. They scored that 2-pointer, but yeah, they had lots of momentum. They played quite well, and you see Gushue with the round of applause there as they wrap up that game. But yeah, Dunstone, I think, rightful winners to move on in this game, and good luck to them in the semifinals.
Well, folks, as I said, this is quarterfinal Monday, so there's 3 other matchups going on. Jacobs with the lead over Ryder there in the 7th. You may want to tune in to Pierce versus McEwen on Sheet C at 4-3 and Epping over Cooey 3-2. Still lots of close games. So you can feel free to use your YouTube and scroll on over to watch those. So, for my broadcast colleague Marty Thompson and the rest of the Curling Stadium crew, my name is Ned Hudson. Thank you for tuning in. You've been watching the quarterfinals of the 2024 RBC Dominion Securities Western Showdown from Swift Current, Saskatchewan. So long for now.
Handcrafted in Canada, Artline's ice pad has revolutionized curling for over a decade. Engineered with top-tier precision and durability, it is backed by an unmatched 10-year warranty. Designed for curlers at all levels to sweep effortlessly with maximum efficiency, it is trusted by the world's best curlers, including Olympic and world champions. It is quite simply the best brew in the game. Hardline. Join the revolution.